Morning, everybody. It seems that I'm making this a habit, but here I am again on a Friday morning, the day after I did my podcast. Speaking to you straight off the top of my head and from the heart. For whatever reason, all that's happening in this crazy world of ours keeps waking me up or making it hard for me to sleep. My Creole powers are telling me things. First of all, I had my show all planned out yesterday, what I wanted to say and how I wanted to say it and so forth and so on. And President-elect Biden did his thing. What's so funny about it is I think Biden has talked himself out with having to already defend himself, his program, so forth and so on. So it kind of shows sometimes. He's trying so hard to make his point and letting everyone know that he's sincere. It's crazy. My YouTube people, I know you guys weren't expecting me. I've heard some people talk about they're not getting notifications before I come on. My Facebook family, I know that you guys weren't expecting me this morning either. But when I wake up with something like this, I usually put pen to paper and write it out until it kind of makes sense, and then try to write it into a Facebook post or tweet or something like that. But there were a couple things on my mind this morning. One was this, let me kind of jot this down just so I'll remember. One was Mike Pence and what I see happening there. The other thing was this COVID thing. And the last thing was the difference between insurrection and a coup. Let me just start off with the COVID thing. Before I do anything, I just want to give honor to Dr. Martin Luther King. Today is his birthday. And I don't know if that was one of the things that sparked what's going on with me or what. But I'd like to say happy birthday, Dr. King. Thank you for your dream. I truly understand what it is to have dreams that inspire you to act. Other thing I want to say is happy heavenly birthday to my cousin Cliff. I thought about it yesterday and I didn't say it. Cliff died a couple years ago. He didn't get to see 60. And yesterday he would have seen 61. It's more like a brother and a pain in the ass. Why do we always say that about the dead? But there are times when I get my car and I think about dialing his number. When something crazy passes my head, it runs through my mind. It's ironic that today is Dr. King's birthday, and I had this crazy dream of it being the catalyst for social upheaval. Maybe today going into Monday, because Monday is when the government celebrates Dr. King's birthday. And we know how those people that carry Confederate flags feel about that. So, happy birthday, Dr. King. Your dream is alive. We've made tremendous progress, but we still have a tremendous way to go. With this guy, Despicable Donnie, Delusional Donnie, Trumple Thin Skin, Trumpenstein, the Despicable Orange One, the Great Orange Cheeto, and all the other monikers that he's amassed during his 4 years as president. But him still acting a fool and not being willing to admit that Biden won fair and square, it makes us targets. And when I say us, I mean primarily people of color, because there is no more coup. They realize now that there's no way that they can make Despicable Donnie president again. So now all that pent up anger, all that pent up frustration, all of that hate, all of that fear of a black planet, all of that fear of the darkening of America will manifest itself as cowardly acts. And I think it's going to be aimed primarily at people of color. So if you're black, if you're Latino, if you look black, if you date black, if you got black kids, if you even think Black Lives Matter, you just may be a target. So be on the lookout. I am a contradiction. I assume the role of United States Marine. I come from the Ninth Ward, the infamous Ninth Ward that became infamous post-Katrina, because we saw some of the poorest people in the city of New Orleans who usually would ride the hurricane out, thrust into a situation where they had no control and things were so far skewed for what normally happens following a hurricane that they had to be rescued. They had to be rescued by a government who doesn't love the people that fight for its freedom. See, imagine how they could give a fuck about some poor black people or poor folks, period, in the Ninth Ward and Lower Ninth Ward. And I said all of that because if you come from the Bronx, if you come from Brooklyn, if you come from Fort Worth, Houston, if you come from parts of Dallas, if you come from Chicago, if you come from LA, if you come from any urban area, you understand the plight. It's one and the same. We're all the same people. And we've been showing up and showing out at these elections. And because we've been showing up and showing out at these elections, because we have been, black folks for so long have been whining and complaining that their vote does not count. Now we see just how much that vote counts. Now we see why our ancestors went through the shit they went through simply because they wanted the right to express themselves, because they didn't know how important the vote was. What they did know is it had to mean something, because there was a man that was trying to stop them from voting. So it became something very precious. Now the pendulum has swung back the other way, where we are starting to understand that we have a collective voice that means something now. So this is not just another reason why we are going to be the object of their frustration and anger and all of that fear that the politicians, when they use terms like those people, when they use terms like the darkening of America, when they use terms like all lives matter, when they use terms like blue lives matter, well, we know exactly that that does not matter. Blue lives doesn't matter to other blue lives because it was blue on blue crime happening on Capitol Hill. That's what I wanted to say last night, and it slipped my mind because I got distracted. I wanted to pay homage to our incoming president of the United States, and it threw me off my game. So again, I did you 2 weeks in a row. I did you a disservice. So I wanted to come back and tell you, if blue lives matter, then why did blue lives do to blue lives what they did at the Capitol building? If white lives matter, why was there so much white on white crime last week and nobody talked about that? If white lives matter, if they were such patriots, why were they not denounced with the zealous zeal that the media does when they say, well, those people are tearing up their own neighborhood. Those people are exhibiting lawlessness. Those people are thugs. If they're so patriotic, why did they act so unpatriotic in one of the most treasured symbols of patriotism in America? If anyone has the answers to all of those questions, I promise you, you're not a Trumpster. You're not a Trumpy, and you're not a Trumpette, because it's glaringly obvious. So the only person that fell to the bullet of law enforcement was Ashley. And I always talk about Ashley by name because somehow we saw a grandfather on TV. And unlike Breonna Taylor, unlike Ahmaud Arbery, unlike George Floyd, nobody talked about her in any other way but how she was a veteran of the Air Force for 12 years, and how she was such a nice person, and how she thought about other people. And anytime they talk about any of these so-called patriots that lost their lives, they talk about them in such glowing terms. So much so that the shit sickens me. Not because I don't fear for the dead, because to me, you don't have to be in a cage to suffer Stockholm syndrome. To me, you don't have to be one-on-one with a captor to be radicalized and brainwashed. To me, there's no difference between an American extremist acting as a terrorist and a Muslim extremist acting as a terrorist. A terrorist is as a terrorist does. They inflict terror. And when you tell me now that I cannot go to DC to stand on the mall to support my incoming president the same way I did in 1992 in that bitter cold when Clinton became president, the same way I did 4 years later, I can't do that because terrorists has our country by the throat, But you still want to use terms like American and patriot. Folks, say it with me. Get the fuck out of here. Thomas Jefferson says it's a citizen's right let me take a minute. Thomas Jefferson said it's a citizen's right to challenge unjust laws through protests. What we saw last week was not a protest. What we saw last week was a coup attempt, a coup d'etat, a failed coup d'etat. How do we know? Because there were members of Congress who were complicit. There were members of police forces from around the country who were complicit. There were members of as much as he wants to denounce Trump now, there were members of Moscow Mitch's PAC, Political Action Committee. I formed a nonprofit so that I could eventually get like-minded people together to form a PAC so that we will have political clout and make our voices heard as well. Because I don't want to run for office. I couldn't sit in Congress right now and look at McCarthy, or look at Cruz, or look at McConnell, or look at Farley, and a lot of these guys, knowing that they were complicit. They were not shocked when they saw these being let out by Capitol Hill police, and they saw these terrorists storm the Capitol too. They knew it was happening. Will they ever pay for their crimes? Will Trump ever be impeached? That's beyond the scope of my Creole powers. I'm drawing a blank. Why? Because we have politicians, T-R-I-C-K, playing polytricks, P-O-L-Y, which means many, tricks for money and power. And at the front of the line is Mitch McConnell, and him basking in the glow that now he's the face of the Republican Party. Oh, he's always been the head of the Republican Party. Because if you remember, the first time they tried to impeach, even before they drew up articles of impeachment, he said there will be no impeachment. So he was not only the head of the Republican Party, what Mitch said the Republican Party did, he used the grand pawn. In a lot of ways, if you play chess, you know that the queen is the most powerful piece on the board. It can go anywhere. But the queen's only job is to protect the king. Because you could sacrifice a queen and still win the game. But when the king dies, the game is over. So who was the king and who was the queen? Trump has been sacrificed himself. If you play chess, it's called what? A queen's gambit. I don't play chess anymore. I have to play chess every time I walk out my door. I have to play chess every time I turn the key in my car. I have to play chess every time I run or walk while black. So why play the game when I'm living the game? So Trump was the queen. The real king is Mitch McConnell. And now he's been exposed. And he's playing this game. Oh, I don't know. I'll listen to the articles, but oh yeah, you heard the freaking articles. We all saw it on TV. And if you are as appalled as you pretended to be, there would be no hesitation. If you could pull the Senate together to put a damn Supreme Court justice on the Supreme Court because you knew that Trump was going to lose. And you were appalled as you pretended to be. You could get this impeachment rolling, but you will not do so simply because it may cause you money, it may cause you prestige, and most of all, it may cause you power. So, folks, beware. What we saw last week was a coup. What we see moving up to this inauguration, and like I said, I'm not making jokes. I had a dream too. It was not that one day we would rise up and live out, no, it wasn't that. It was that today is Martin Luther King's birthday. Monday is the day that they. Sometimes I put my tongue between my teeth, and other times I put my tongue behind my teeth. And I purposely, I'm so mad I can't talk. I purposely say they. They is them people that make the rules. DDD. They, them, that. Monday is the day that them people celebrate a federal holiday of Dr. Martin Luther King. It leads into an inauguration. So I'm going to say it, if you just tuned in, if you are a person of color, especially if you are Black, if you look Black, be on the lookout. Because now we've got a Black vice president. We've got a Black man who basically puts us over the top and make the Senate blue. We got Stacey Abrams. We got all of these Black female mayors, especially in the city of DC. We got all of these Black police chiefs. And we got all of these Black people. I'm stealing this from Blake, who have a voice, who have the power of decipher, being able to decipher this game of chess that's being played, that's unfolding. So be on the lookout. Enough about that. Let me move on. COVID. Last night, I listened to President-elect Joe Biden, and as a result, my show was pushed back. And I said, unlike network news, unlike a network program, I had no way of notifying my audience that I was deferring, I was passing the ball to our incoming president. It's not about my ego in my show, because I too wanted to hear what he had to say. And I listened to him, and I'm going to be honest with you. Joe is like that uncle. He's very wise. He's got so many life experiences, and when he speaks, you can hear the pain. So he's not the same Joe Biden that went up against Anita Hill. He's evolved. Life and pain has a way of doing that. But, conjunction, junction, but, I'm going to hook up this phrase with, he's not a dynamic speaker. He's not a great orator. Joe talks. Joe likes to wow you with statistics. And if you're paying attention, there's a lot of information that you can get from Joe. And I'm taking artistic creative difference in calling him Joe, because I was one of the first people that said in 2016, I understood he was too fresh to the Obama administration. So there was a lot of people that was ready for a change from a black man or anything that resembled a black man. But Hillary was not the answer. But I said in 2017, sometime in January, before Despicable Delusion Donnie took the seal of the President of the United States onto his chest and called himself Commander-in-Chief, I said that Joe Biden was the antidote to the hate that Trump was spewing. And it just turns out that my Creole powers were right. He is. But he's 4 years older. He's 4 years wiser. But Joe talks. And he's going to make sure that you get what he has to say because he's old school. Public speaking old school, they teach you to tell him what you're going to tell him what you got to tell him, and then tell him what you told him. Because most people hear the first thing you say and the last thing you say. And somewhere in the middle, it turns to Charlie Brown's teacher, wah, 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 wah. Joe told us about COVID. Joe told you how he's going to do some of the things that he promised to do and how he's going to push these companies to get this 100 million injections of this I'm a radiology guy, okay? So when I say injection, I'm thinking radiology contrast. These vaccinations, let me clear it up. How he's going to get these vaccines into people's arms in the first 100 days of his administration. I call this Happy Birthday, Dr. King, and walking, I'm running with scissors. I think that's what I called it. Yeah, that's what I called it. I said because Congress is pretending like they can walk and chew gum. I'm saying if you're a duly elected official who can get a freaking Supreme Court justice done in less than a week, you can certainly walk and chew gum and run with a pair of scissors. So you should be able to work on the COVID. You should be able to work on getting Joe's cabinet and appointees vetted so that they could do the job of getting us back to a kinder, gentler America. And you should be able to work on the stimulus. So if two of those three is walking and chewing gum, then three of them is running with scissors. So Congress, it's our expectation that you get those three things done, primarily. If that's a problem, then we'll see you in the next 2 years. If you can't do the job, we'll find somebody who can. And that's whether your name is Nancy Pelosi, Chuck Schumer, Mitch McConnell, or whomsoever. Because just like Trump is vulnerable now, there's nobody in the Republican Party that's as vulnerable as Mitch McConnell. So I'm going to say something that Joe wouldn't say. He wants to talk about this long relationship that he had with Mitch and how they've worked together in the past. Mitch McConnell could give a flying Falstaff about any of that. Mitch is trying to hold on to his own party, and last thing he wants to do is make a Democratic president successful. So obstructionary proceedings, obstruction in Congress, it starts on January the 20th, but certainly on January the 21st, because it's starting now. Joe told us about COVID. He told us how he was going to get those injections into people's arms. And he told us about the thing that blows my mind, in the next 3 weeks, we can lose somewhere between 90 and 100,000 people. Those numbers are so overwhelming that it goes in one ear with some people and come out the other because they just can't believe it to be true until one of those 100,000 people is someone that's near and dear to you. Until you or somebody that you care about is diagnosed with the COVID virus. So I'm gonna move on. I didn't mean for this to be, and I'm not just off the top of my head. So if I sound like Uncle Joe, I guess I'm in good company. The last thing I want to talk about, and this is the long con. With con men, they have what's called a short con, and then they have this long game that they play. And it's unfolding before our very eyes. So while you're watching Mitch talking about how appalled he is and how he may entertain voting for impeachment this time, he's doing some things here. You can't see it. What I'm doing with this hand, I could be patting my stomach, I could be rubbing my belly, I could be playing with myself. You don't know because you're distracted by what's going on over here. So what's going on under the table is he's propping up Mike Pence to be the heir apparent. He's propping up Mike Pence to say, did not Mike look presidential in those last 20 days, those last 2 weeks? Did Mike not look presidential when he went out there and he tried to be presidential to the troops, those National Guardsmen who were standing out there, and they looked so uncomfortable being used as props for a photo op. I just wanted to say thank you for your service. And where are you from? Oh, so how long have you been in? 29 years? I think that deserves a round of applause. How about you guys? Now you take care of these guys, huh? And then they had the one white female there. And he reached out. Everybody else he was giving a forearm bump to. He reached out and he touched this woman on the shoulder. And she instinctively cut her eyes. You don't believe me? Go back and look at it. I'm going to show you it's on there. So the long con, the long game, they're putting together now, or Mitch is, because Mitch is playing chess, but he's also the king. He's the unchallenged king of the Republican Party. He's propping Pence up to be Joe Biden or Kamala Harris or anybody else's opponent, because we know Joe is a one-term president. So the de facto would be Kamala Harris, depending on how successful they are, which is all the more reason why he's going to undermine everything that Biden wants to do. Because if Biden looks good, Kamala Harris looks good. So Pence is doing his best to look presidential, and he's following the puppeteer, Mitch McConnell. That's why he wasn't shocked, because he knew it was coming. And that's why he was the number one person that those good old patriots that we now call terrorists was looking for. Where's Mike Pence? We're going to string him up. Pence, Pence, Pence. So they were talking about lynching a vice president of the United States. And the media is playing that down because they were just misguided patriots. Pence is trying his best to look presidential, but he's the most disingenuous person. And if you know anything about Indiana, you know how he fudged up that. He fudged up the state of Indiana beyond repair. So, folks, as I always say, that's all I got for you. I usually say I got something to say. I usually tell you that my name is Hank Batiste. I usually tell you that the voices in my head woke me up because I had a dream. I will tell you that this had to be said. I would tell you to omit the logic because none of this shit makes any sense. But if it did, I wouldn't have anything to talk about, would I? So, excuse the interruption this Friday morning. This is the second Friday in a row, but it had to be said. So next week, I'll see you Thursday. Same Baptiste place, same Baptiste time. 7:30 p, 6:30 p Central. Is always important. Peace. I'm out of here, folks. Be good. Have a great day. Enjoy your weekend. Please, 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 I can't overemphasize it enough. Be on the lookout. Them people is looking, and they will act up and act a fool because it's always been the people that wore robes at night wore badges and guns in the morning. So look out for somebody with a police badge or flashing light trying to pull you over. Look out for some strange, friendly white people in your neighborhood, or black folks for that matter, because we've already learned that all the Trumpsters are not white, named Billy Bob. Some of them run for Congress, some of them are chiefs of police, and so forth and so on. Be on the lookout. Enjoy yourselves. Have a great weekend. Happy birthday, Dr. King. I'll see you on the flip side. Peace. All right, first Facebook. I'm out of here.